Welcome back to the Jonestead. I'm Mary. Today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025, and I found a really interesting article this morning on Zero Hedge that I wanted to share with you all. I don't have any affiliation with Zero Hedge, but I find their what they publish and the information they put out is very detailed. You don't find it on mainstream media, and so I like to go to it, scan it pretty regularly and see what the latest data is on economics, on policy, and so forth. So this particular article is called "Shocking Record Explosion in Student Loan Delinquencies Marks the Start of the Next Debt Crisis." And specifically, this also breaks down household debt from numbers that the New York Fed has come out with. Specifically, it says total household debt rose by $185 billion in the second quarter of 2025, and a 1% rise from the first quarter in 2025. Balances now stand at almost $4 trillion and have increased by $4.24 trillion since the end of 2019, just before the planned co-flu, whatever you want to call it, recession. And the New York Fed provided kind of a snapshot of the data that they've compiled. Mortgage balances grew by $131 billion during the second quarter of 2025 and totaled $12.94 trillion at the end of June. So we have mortgages, which is debt. Then we have, of course, they talk about the HELOC loans, home equity lines, and there's now $411 billion in outstanding HELOC balances. More debt. Credit card balances rose by $27 billion during the second quarter and now total $1.21 trillion outstanding and are 5.87% above the level they were a year ago. Auto loan balances rose by $13 billion and now stand at $1.66 trillion. And something else that's stated in this article that I thought was interesting is that they've reported that the borrowers, the auto borrowers, their status, they're not as strong of a consumer, not as reliable of a borrower. The qualifications for somebody applying and getting a mortgage actually have gotten higher, so you have a better quality of mortgage purchaser, and the quality of the person taking a loan out on a vehicle has actually declined. So we're probably going to be seeing more of these subprime loans in the car industry, which is a whole nother ball of wax. And we'll move on, and let's see here. Loan balances, and then you have all other balances like retail cards. Those have stayed steady at a measly $540 billion. But we get to student loan balances have edged up by $7 billion and now stand at $1.64 trillion. And something that is, as this article goes on to talk about, as I'm sure you all know, the previous administration had put a freeze for years on the student loans having to be paid. And so there weren't any reports of late payments, didn't affect if somebody chose not to pay, did not affect their credit score. But now that has changed, and it says, while the transition into early delinquency held steady for nearly all debt types, the exception was for student loans, which saw another uptick in the rate at which balances went from current to delinquent due to a resumption of reporting of delinquent student loans on credit reports after nearly a 5-year pause due to the co-flu, I like to call it. So we have the freeze is thawing. People, and it's when you talk about students, we like to think about young people. Some of the biggest those that are some of the biggest delinquent loan borrowers are actually older, and some of them are in their 50s. But it says specifically the the delinquency rates were stable with others, exploded higher for student loans as a share of student loan debt entering serious delinquency was 12.9%, the highest in 21 years of data. So what I guess this raises a lot of questions in my mind, and we've all been hearing a lot about the student loan and the debt crisis, and this is now bubbling to the top, and this is these aren't small potatoes. And I did look up, and the average student loan is approximately $30,000 according to Forbes. In Virginia is $38,000. And so if there was a freeze, people didn't have to pay for 5 years. Why weren't they had plenty of time to prepare to make sure that, or some people I know continued paying, even though they could have put it off, but many didn't, as we're looking at this information. And so what were they doing for those 5 years? And what kind of a job market are they looking at going into now? And my other question is, why aren't these universities being held accountable for selling these students on these degrees where they're spending thousands upon thousands of dollars to go to college to get a degree, and they're literally, I know people that are earning minimum wage, which minimum wage working, and now of course minimum wages, the states keep imposing higher minimum wages on businesses. But so these universities that are paying all these salaries to these professors that they teach year after year after year, they have all these endowments, and the American family, the middle class, if you want to call it, are being gutted and nickel and dime to death everywhere else. And now the dream that they sell is go to college, get a degree, and you'll get a good job. And that isn't even happening. Not to mention the cost of housing for people starting out. So they've got this debt to begin with that they're starting out with. Then to have an automobile, most people take loans out. I think the average car payment is $500 a month because they can't afford to just buy something straight up. Cost of autos has gone up unbelievably. And then as we're talking about the job market, there was actually another really good article in Zero Hedge this morning, and it is titled "Technology Beware AI Industrial Complex." And I will end on this one, and it says specifically, labor and looming AI divide, wither the middle class. Generative AI in its first iteration targets the heart of middle class office and clerical economy. Brookings finds more than 30% of U.S. workers could see at least half of their tasks disrupted, with mid-skill professional roles most exposed. Public anxiety is tracking the data. A 2024 Governance AI survey shows about half of Americans expect AI to widen the income inequality, and 2/3 want federal action to cushion job losses. Well, we need to stop the federal. I'll stop saying that. I wasn't going to say anything nice. The paradox: the same families paying higher utility bills may also face stagnant wages or displacement in the very sectors AI automates. So again, we're looking at a strained job market as it is, and you have AI coming in and taking jobs from people, and it's only going to snowball, if you will. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I think it's really important for all of us to really understand the state of our economy, the United States of America. We need, as responsible citizens, we need to be aware of what's going on, do our part to be self-sufficient. And look, you don't need a college degree. We've seen now, what does that get you? Certainly there are some wonderful programs, but there are a lot of things that you can do, a lot of other tech programs, automotive, horticulture, so agricultural programs that you can go in and you can find educational opportunities in a whole variety of different ways other than just going and signing up for a 4-year stint at a university, and usually it takes longer than 4 years. So again, do everything you can to be independent and pay attention to what's going on, ask questions, and I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Have a great day.